some artist doing some risk taking in one venue has ripple effects for everything from the next theater down the block to what's on Broadway to what's touring, because people are seeing these shows and getting excited and getting ideas.
Friends, I'm Kristin Marting, and this is Torches. Today we have my dear friend and long-term collaborator, Paul Pinto. Paul creates and performs multidisciplinary music, opera theater, installation, and performance. He's a core member of ensembles thingNY and Varispeed. I am very excited to speak with him today. Welcome, Paul.
Hi.
So, how did you come to be in downtown performance?
I guess I started to do work that no one would fund, and so I kind of had to self-fund and get a bunch of other weirdos who were interested in doing things for free or nothing, or like very little money, and then seeing what work we made out of that. And I guess that's called downtown. But the first performances I did when I came back, I'm from New York, but the first performances I did coming back here were in Jersey City, and one of the first that we did with thingNY was actually this 3,000 seat auditorium called the Lowe's Jersey Theater with like 20 people in the front row. So downtown is like big scale for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can you describe a moment of pure joy that you found in your art making?
Man, a lot. We just did this show called Octet, this string quartet with video piece.
It was awesome.
Thanks. It's really, there's like joy in every production is like extremely ecstatic. So I found a lot of joy I sent you a trailer for a show we're doing in February, and I'm so happy just like moving little things, like little clips, 1 millisecond this way, that way. That brings me so much joy. The show we did this last weekend, it was just it was like one of the best times my music's ever been performed by another ensemble. So I was just ecstatic, just watching it. And I spent like we did 2 shows, and the first show I was like mixing sound. And so I was doing that, and I was doing a lot of button pushing because I don't know how to not be an active performer. And then the second one, I was like, oh, I don't have to do this. I could just like fade up and down a little bit slower and chill. And just watching it was like, this thing that I worked so long on just coming to life.
Yeah, usually there's a lot of words in your music,
Yeah.
and this was really interesting to see you do a piece that was instrumental.
Yeah.
How is that different for you working in that form?
It's not. What's different is it's not a different thing for me to work on. It's a different thing for someone to produce and put in front. Like I guess I'm known for like performing a lot of my own work, and it's very wordy. But I actually started being a musician. I wanted to be like a composer for film scores. So it wasn't like this is like now it's out of my wheelhouse because I'm out of practice. But like for the most, like I wanted to orchestrate. I wanted to write instrumental music. I dig that stuff. What's different is I don't tend to self-produce chamber music. Right. And this isn't chamber music either. It had theater to it, but
definitely it had theater.
Yeah.
They had black rubber gloves on and pencils that they were playing their instruments with, the violin, the viola, and the cello with pencils.
Yeah. They were like, write a string quartet. Like, sure, gotcha.
You've been very influenced by Robert Ashley. Can you talk a bit about his work and why it's intrigued you and how you've taken the inspiration into your own direction?
Yeah, I think there were a couple composers that were making opera, and I got the CD, and I was like, this is opera? I guess I like opera. I'm a big fan of Wagner's Ring Cycle. Like, I like the Shostakovich operas. I like the Karl Orff operas. I mean, I do like European opera. And I count Meredith on this, Mikkel Rouse, artists making operas, calling what they do operas, and feeling like, that's me. That's something I'm interested in doing. Like, I am interested in fucking with this form.
Identity theft is real. Use the
It's nice to have a role model. because sometimes you don't have a role model in the work. That's kind of, I guess, like what experimental music is kind of like not having a role model. It's just like, I don't know what I'm aiming for. I'm just kind of looking in this direction. It was nice to meet that role model. I guess I had heard about Robert Ashley when I was in music school, but no one in music school took him very seriously. And so I was equally like, I don't know what this is, and like dismissed it. And then in grad school, I worked at a call center, and the people working at this call center with me were all art students. They went to like the Glasgow School of Arts. They made me mixtapes, and I discovered all these artists that I maybe knew their name, but I didn't really sink into their music until someone curated it and gave me context for like how this, what this work is and why it's important, and also that like people, all those art students, they all had like tons of bands. And they were like great musicians. And here I was, this like academic composer, like in a music school, in a music program, trying to make chamber music that someone cares about, and was never in a band, didn't really perform, just kind of was trying to figure out how I make it as a film composer that doesn't know any filmmakers. Just kind of like how do I like self-actualize as a film composer, and then like, oh no, I'll do orchestral music and choral music, and then working backwards from that is like, oh, chamber music. And it felt at first like chamber music and electronic music felt like they were middle grounds to the epic big thing that I wanted to do. And like discovering these artists not make it as middle ground, but instead like this is the medium, this is the work, and it's so epic, and it's so unique, and it tries to world build. That was so fascinating. So Bob Ashley is that for me. It's like a world builder. And it changed my idea of how words fit into work. I wasn't a word writer. I didn't like write lyrics or anything. I didn't songwrite or anything. So it was, it like opened up for me that I too could like write about thoughts in my head, and it needn't be voyeuristic or pedantic. It could just be like, it's going to go to the next place. It's going to keep going to the next place. And actually that I can self-reference. The kind of autobiographical work that is Bob's is so interesting. I remember the album that got me interested was a production of Atalanta in Italy. And I had heard Perfect Lives before, and I'd seen the videos. And to my R&B generation of the 90s, growing up with music videos, well, this looks dated, and I don't know who this person is, and I don't know what they're talking about. And this is an opera. I don't get it. And so I heard Atalanta, where like half of it is in Italian, and I didn't, and it was like it was a mixtape. So I didn't like, I didn't have any context for what this was. It's like, what is this wild stuff? What is going on? They're talking about baseball. Someone's singing in the background. They keep interrupting with these chorales. And I was like, oh, this is a great form. Like, this is exciting. This is like epic and everything. And after engaging with that, then I became like a fan and started like looking at Perfect Lives and re-examining it and reading it. I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is everything. It speaks to me, and there's always something that I can get from it upon rereading and upon re-listening. And yeah, I hope to make work like that. I hope to make work like that.
I think you already do. You talked about writing your enjoyment at not grasping everything, and your work is really fast often, and like it's okay to not get everything and instead enjoy the adventure. That's what you said. So how do you? I
don't know what I said. When did I say? I mean, it sounds familiar, but I don't remember.
In some interview I found when I was researching you.
Oh God.
Why does that excite you as a maker, this idea of not grasping everything?
Well, I think there's like, I mean, the same way that we're working on Mano together, right? It's that someone else will also fill in the gap for me, right? Like, so I give a little bit, and then someone comes along and like meets me part of the way there. So that's really exciting. I cut my teeth on collaborative theater making with thingNY. Like we met up in a room once a week to make a piece together, and we brought in a kernel of an idea that someone else would like fill in and fix and adjust, and that mode of making is really exciting. But I am also like super interested in the auteur vision. So in addition to collaboration, I'm so interested in world building. If I can make a piece and have total control on what this is, the imagery, the pacing, the design of the marketing, like I love all that stuff. I don't care if someone misses a word or doesn't understand a reference. The same way that if I read a novel, I can't fathom how this creator came up with all this stuff. And that wonder is super, super exciting. And I think as I've gotten a better writer, it's through the acknowledgement that I am not an expert. I'm as smart as I can be on the subject at this moment, and I'll write what I can about it. But leaving room for editing, leaving room for the mistakes, leaving room for the omissions, leaving room for the mythology, right? The things that like, this is not quite right, but it's something like this. That is such an engaging, I just find so much joy in that, in someone being so committed to an idea. And I think about this with performers too. Like, I don't need to have a virtuoso, but I need to have someone who is just so dedicated on stage, and that like grabs me. So yeah, I think following that same thread, when I go see a piece of theater, like I don't give a shit about sightlines. Like I don't care about super titles. The mystery is exciting, and I don't need to have all the answers.
Great.
Yeah.
I want to zero back in on something you touched on briefly, which was about collaboration. You have folks you've been collaborating with forever, with thingNY and with Varispeed both.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk a bit about what you gain from that kind of collaboration, and maybe what are challenges inside that kind of collaboration both?
Yeah, I mean, like all theater is collaboration, right? So it's my artistic collaborators are family. There's all the things that go with family, of the familiarity and how that can be so exciting, the shorthand about like how we just kind of know each other's vibe ahead of something. We also know what our like secret agendas are as we like make work together. And that is, that can be completely maddening, but it can also, it's so heartwarming just to be like, oh, yeah, that's an Andrew lick. Or like, yeah, of course Gelsey made that little lick of a piece. Or like, yeah, Isabel put that. Or, this kind of way of like the knowing what your family's up to. That's really exciting. And I also like, this goes to the non-expertise thing of I have a great idea for something. I have no idea how to get it done. That's what makes theater so exciting, and what makes collaboration so exciting, that someone else can be, oh, I know someone, or like, or I know how to do that. Yeah. Right. I mean, I feel like that's why we make theater, I hope. Yes. It's just to be like, I have these ideas for lighting. All these ideas where lighting is so integrated and it's so important. Do you know how to run this light board? No. But someone does.
Right. Yeah. You're a multi-hyphenate artist. Yeah. You are a writer, you are a composer, you're a performer, you're a marketing designer, as we were talking about. You like to wear a lot of hats. Do you find that people try to compartmentalize you or limit you from inhabiting all the hats you want to inhabit?
I don't think so. We're so, like, the economy of making work is like no one has enough money to do anything, right? Like people are struggling to find enough time to do anything. So if someone is covering that base, I think that's a bonus. I mean, no one's made me feel bad about it yet. Okay. And I always into like someone, like I like drafting the idea, and then hopefully a collaborator who has more expertise or experience can like fix it and adjust it. But Yeah, I love the first drafts. I love the messy first draft. I love making the etude of something. So I feel that goes for text writing, that goes for orchestration, and that goes for recording, goes for a video idea. I maybe was a little bit too quick to say I like the producing stuff. I don't think I like the producing stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think you've mentioned recently how you don't like the producing
yeah.
stuff.
I think we cried in a cafe, and I was well, no, we didn't. I cried in the cafe, and I was like, Kristin, this is the last piece I'm ever gonna do.
And my heart was broken.
I know. No, that's not. It's not true, but it feels fun to exaggerate.
How about identity? Does your identity as the son of immigrants affect the work that you make or how you see it?
Yeah. I think that's like, I mean, I obviously make work about, I make autobiographical work a lot. So there's no way that I can't bring my mom and dad into it. That's my experience of America. So the complexity of my father, rest in peace, crossing the Canadian border in a trunk of a car, because he and his friends wanted to see Niagara Falls. Like, he was already in this country, but like he couldn't actually get out and come back in. So that story, and I gotta say, like, the longer I know that story, the more I reconstruct it, and maybe it's not real, maybe it's myth, but it is so ingrained in me that's such an American story. That's like going to see Niagara Falls, but like crossing a border to do it. The fear of authority, while also trying to navigate how you exist in it. The opportunity of like, man, this is like a blank canvas to restart my life in some way that so many like teens and 20-year-olds who first come to this country feel, while the complexity of it's not a blank canvas. It's something that you're building, like all that conflict, something that I think we all struggle with and we all should be thinking about. And it can be debilitating, and you can make work out of it. Like it can be stuff that can like figure into your work in some way.
How do you think your work as an artist or work that artists are making right now can help us navigate this incredibly complicated time in the United States of America?
I don't know, man. You caught me on a bad day for this. Like, I don't think it can. I think like universal health care, I think giving people a living wage so that they can exist on something, housing security, free public transit. I think that stuff helps, right? Like, and allows us to be more free to make things and to enjoy things. But yeah, I like well, I mean, I'll just say for me, I think other artists can probably help better, but I can't. I feel like I can make, and I can celebrate, and I can get into what feels good about being in a room together making live performance. But I think of my work about changing the world. I think the world's got to change, and I could be a part of that with protests, with volunteering. But in my work, all I can do is react.
I feel like your work asks us to re-examine things that we take for granted. So I feel like that is leading to change.
Great. That's a better answer than I gave.
No, like I'm thinking about like Thomas Paine and Violence, which you developed through the HEART program, and I saw it through all these different iterations.
Yeah.
You know, Thomas Paine was this guy who late in life became criticized and reviled, but he came up with concepts that are core to America. And you were calling into a question the way he was viewed, and you were also calling into question some of the things that he talked about and that other people reacted to. And I think it made me think about who I was as a citizen and what my role was as a citizen.
The reddened face of the masses cry for justice, cry for redress. The great mass of the poor in all countries are become hereditary, and it is impossible to ignore them.
Amid all the things that were more abstract and more like I didn't catch. So I'm just curious what you think about that.
Well, it makes me feel great. I'm like, I mean, that's great. It's like, how did it? I mean, what? Give me like how. Since you put it there, like, what did it change in you? Like, what did it change in?
It was a self-examination moment. It was a moment of not sitting with what I think of as American citizenship and what our roles are as citizens. It called into question, like, well, should I take that for granted, or should I really examine that more carefully?
Yeah.
Your piece, Whiteness, definitely causes self-examination. It was made post-COVID, post-George Floyd, in the midst of the racial reckoning, and it felt like a piece that was really asking us to have a sense of humor about it, but also asking us to take really seriously things that we took for granted, that unquestioningly.
That's great. It makes me feel great. I think the self-examination that's what I do in my work. And now as a parent, that's what I do every day. Just like, what's going on? Was this a good idea? Should I be in charge? Like for sure. It's not to minimize it. It's to add complexity to it. It's self-examination. That's awesome. But we talk about action, right? And like action is the thing that changes things.
Right.
And that's what I'm unsure. And it's not to put it down or negate it, right? Like I think the work I do is important, but I think it's not the thing. It's not the action. It is a reaction, and self-examination. Like my art isn't my therapy, right? It's like it's entertainment. It's the way that I engage with people, and so but it is reacting to something. I'm sure that there are artists there who are for whom that's not true. For whom it's like, this is a reimagining of the way I want the world to be, and that's not the way that I make work. Maybe, unfortunately, and maybe that'll change, because who knows? Like 7 years ago, I was a different human.
Literally.
Yeah, for real.
You once spoke about the importance of Black and brown performers being cast in roles in which they aren't only portraying the Black and brown characters. Why is that important to you?
I have made work about what it is like to be a brown guy. It would feel so shitty if I could only make one but not the other.
How about being a parent? How has that affected your work?
Yeah, obviously, like everything, right? Like everything, it kind of like radically breaks open your soul, and makes you rethink just every relationship you have and every way that you interact with time and pacing and place, and your family and your ancestry and your siblings, and it just like it breaks open everything. And so I think right now, I have a 2-year-old right now, Jonah. He's a handful and he's great. And he's my little like exploring buddy. But I have a different relationship with my work now that he's in daycare, that he can talk. And not only can he talk a lot. That he wants to listen to music with me. That then I have a different relationship now with my art making than I did when he was a little slug. When I had to like watch him all the time, but he didn't do anything but just like look at me. The way I wrote music was on walks. I would like put him in the stroller and I'd go for walks. And it was 'cause there's no way I would get 5 minutes, let alone 15 minutes, to do any kind of intense work that required repetition and editing. It just wasn't in his cards. I mean, you know this, you're a parent, right? There's that time where like I can do nothing else but just like be on call. Since Jonah's gone back to school, that's different, right? Like, so I guess not what's new, but what's I keep having to come to terms with is that being a parent doesn't make you a different artist for the rest of your life. Being a parent is like any other relationship or status, that it's shiftable, that it changes, that it's like in 6 months it's this, and then the next 6 months it's that, and for a month it's this, and then for like the next 20 years it's that, right? So it's I am learning not to get comfortable in an artistic process because it's going to change.
So going from the family micro now to a macro context. So talk about relationship with institutions and how institutions have supported or not supported your work.
Yeah. I guess like from college to where I am now, I guess I'm a student of New York City public schools. Institutions have supported my art my entire life. And I even think about my parents, that like the fundamental starting institution. My brothers are both animators, like, and they ran a grocery store and never once made us feel bad about doing art in some way. I think from early on, I had actually a very positive view of institutions, a very like, oh, someone will help me. Like I'll kind of start an idea and then someone will help me along the way. I'm not going to be doing it alone, right? It continues to flabbergast me when I'm like, I really thought I'd get that grant. Or like, I really thought I was really a good fit for that program. Or I have a meeting and I'm like, we had a great meeting. They talked about, programming some work of mine, and then like crickets. Like I continuously get heartbroken because I think, I don't know, there's a kind of, I don't know if it's entitlement or something, but it's something sort of like, oh yeah. Someone's going to dig this at some point. So I've been lucky because enough institutions, like cultural institutions, have actually been that safety net and that kind of lifting up. And obviously, like, here is a figure so huge in my life because there's nothing else like it. And the HARP program hit me at a time where I was self-producing, but I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't know how to, like, communicate that this was important. The idea of like having my hands in every piece of making this happen was important to me. Even though like outwardly I could dream that like at some point an agent will help, or like at some point someone else will like do this. That like getting my hands dirty with something was really important. And I think here, the HARP program specifically is like one of those organizations and institutions where seeing how the sausage is made, and even I remember something you and Kim told me when I got the HARP residency, that it can be a bathroom when you're in this area. We want to be your bathroom when we're in, like that home, like finding a home and feeling like I can knock on the office door and just say like, hi. That actually belonging to, you say institution, but it's actually a community. Like that like belonging in a place. I can go into that building. I can chill in the cafe with my laptop and do my admin work. I can be creative in the space. I can host a party in the space. I can see who's up for a happy hour drink in this, like all that part, that's like super important. Like to me, it's very formative too. The idea that like having a place is so special. And I think what's my relationship with institutions now is I have those a little bit, but I wasn't like aware of it the same way I was when I was in the HERE program, because I got so much support in a way that I didn't know I needed. Just the ability to be able to knock on a door and say hi to someone who is helping me produce my work. That physical lack of boundary was so important. And I don't know how we sustain that, because that's such a hard thing to sustain. And not every artist needs it. Obviously, some people are just like, give me a check and let me write the thing. But I actually long for those, the long coffee meeting that starts off as something about budgets and somehow like nails on chalkboard. I'm like, God, I gotta leave. I gotta stop talking about budgets. But when I leave that meeting, I'm like, guys, like 3 people just helped me put this budget together. and that like gratitude motivates me to keep making work. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a long-winded way of making of.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If there's one thing you would change about the way institutions are operating in general, what would it be? Or what recommendation do you have for institutions today? There's a lot going on there.
Institutions have the bandwidth to make community bigger than just local. Mm-hmm. So touring factors into that, but also just the way that we engage with the people that we want to show our work to, the people we could potentially collaborate with. This was something the pandemic was really great for, because since we were all on screens, the institutions who did something, thinking about like here, and were able to be like, now there's no limit on who you can collaborate with. Mm-hmm. It can be anyone in the world, and you just have to figure out the technology for it, but like it's there. But that lack of barrier is something we can learn from.
What do you want to give an audience? You've talked about audience and community and the joy of touring and performing in different contexts, different size venues, different people are seeing the work who might not have been exposed to it. What excites you about that?
I like people experiencing my work for the first time. I think I want to be liked by everyone. This is a deep problem that I have.
Also a people pleaser here.
All people pleasers. We want like a first time audience member is like a crush at the other side of the bar. Like just I want you to see this work. I want you to be activated by this. I want you to be engaged by it. In a way, like so there's something about that like thrill of like someone experiencing for the first time and not having a name for what this is, but just kind of engaging with it, just like absorbing it. That's really exciting. So sometimes I do like cheeky things, like if there's a bill of multiple artists, I'm like, it would be really great to go either first or last, because there's something about like our memory of like, great, I'm sitting down in this theater, it's the first thing I'm seeing, or I'm leaving this theater and going for a drink now. This was the last thing I would think. And this comes from a person with a terrible memory. It's like, what did I just see? Oh, yeah. The last thing or the first thing are often like really exciting. So yeah, that's kind of like inside cheeky baseball, like how I want to.
But don't you want them to like it the second time too?
I do.
When they see your work for work for the first time.
Yeah. This also goes to like repetition, right? Like how we get. Yeah, of course I do. It's funny. I'd spent all this time on pressing an album that thingNY put together, Mini's Trajectories, we put on vinyl, and I made these beautiful scores. And this is another moment of joy. Me and Aaron Rodgers stuffing LPs late into the night, like just the preparation of like, I can't wait to share this with someone, and it looks so good. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of the thing. And I remember doing a test listening at a friend's house, and they're like, how many times do you expect them to listen through it, by the way? I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that before I made the album. This is why people make media. They want to experience it more than once. I was just like, I'm just happy to make a thing. But I think that changed how I think about albums and how I think about fixed media. Mm-hmm. I really, if I'm gonna print the thing out, I know that like, I really want someone to like be able to put it on a loop.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you think that the spirit of downtown, like experimentation and risk and community, do you think it still exists?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because like experimentation, I use that word. I remember for like when Whiteness was in prototype, one of their promotional items was like a line where it's like, here's the most contemporary classical and here's the most experimental, and boop, I was all the way at this end. And I remember seeing that, I was like, yeah, but I know exactly what I'm doing. This is like, there's no experiment. Like I know exactly what's gonna come out of here, and I know the audience reaction. Like I I know I put a lot of thought in Kameron Neal, the director and designer. We put a lot of thought in pacing and in like how we want this to be experienced. And actually, because it's a screen, there's so little experiment. I mean, it's like, this is the only way you're getting to see the thing. There's no multiple viewpoints. It's just, here it is. Experimenting is so interesting. So there's that term, because as a composer and writer, I'm so into etudes and like trying something out. And I've been very fortunate to have long processes for my work, to have multiple workshops, meetings, etudes. I do a lot of demos. So I'm into the idea of like, put something scrappy, put something up and like share it. But in reality, not in reality, when it's audience facing, my work doesn't live in that world anymore of the kind of like, this could go anywhere. It really sits more in the like, I've thought this out. I've done all my experimenting at home. So now what you're going to see is something with in like an intention from beginning to end. And the only things that go wrong are tech. That's not intentional. So I think it is alive. And I think, so that just to answer your question, the idea of experimenting and risk-taking, I think is totally alive. And I would love to say that I still share in it and still am a part of it. But yeah, there's a younger generation doing it in a way that's like, is not crossing my radar. Like venues that I haven't even heard about. Like, of course it's happening. Like underground work is happening. And the fact that like, it has to happen. Also because venues are closing. Like people are being priced out of the city. It's happening in awesome places, not in untraditional venues. I mean, I love that my work has been part of that world of like the untraditional venue, the untraditional way of programming, durational, site specific. People are doing this all the time. And sometimes it comes from something practical, like, well, we can't afford a venue, so this is an outdoor performance. But it also comes from a lot of intention. Like, I don't want to be fixed to one idea of what this piece is. So I want a variable to change every time. So yeah, I definitely believe it's like, it's there and it's like kicking, and it actually feeds us. Like the risk taking that like some artists doing some risk taking in one venue has ripple effects for everything from the next theater down the block to what's on Broadway to what's touring, because people are seeing these shows and getting excited and getting ideas, and it's building a baseline for what is acceptable theater, and it's got to be risky. It's got to be cool.
Where do you want your art to evolve to next? Where do you see it going in the continuum that you're on?
See it going, want to, different things.
Okay.
Want to, space. That would be great. Like to just...
Your own space?
No, in outer space.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be great. Doing a show on Mars or something. But like where it's going, I don't know. Now it's going to La Mama, the big space in La Mama, which is like, has been a dream to do something in the Ellen Stewart of my own. There's some part of that question which is about how forward thinking are you? I think in reality, I'm not that forward thinking. I'm just kind of like chasing, I'm like the dog chasing something. Just like excited about the next big thing. Because I work on a lot of different projects and they're each at different points in their process, I get to think about what the future is on all these different scales at all these different times. So the thing I think most about is what's like 2 months down the line and what am I so excited about? The bigness of the Ellen Stewart Theater, the collaboration with you to get in the room and actually like make staging decisions, getting Jeanette and Philip and the band to really deeply explore and to like make mistakes and fix them and to adjust and to tweak. So I see the kind of whole team effort going towards a thing that feels exciting to put in front of an audience. But I've also started a process on a piece where I'm just reading a lot. And so I have no idea except some vague idea that it's a big room, like the biggest room I can afford. And I think that it keeps me from having a clear answer of like where I want things to go. but I'm very excited about not having a clear answer. That I'm just like, at any point, something could pivot and be like, oh wow, that work's getting a lot of attention. Now I've got to like focus all my effort on that.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much for doing this, Paul.
Yeah.
Thanks so much to HowlRound for hosting us, and we hope you'll come back to more of Torches.